Super Rugby round 4 is not too far away. We've got 2 games on the Friday. That is the Highlanders against the Stormers in Dunedin, followed up by the Rebels against the Brumbies in Melbourne. Highlanders are coming off the bye. Stormers are coming on after 2 losses on the road. One kind of close and one, they got a few points put on them by the Crusaders. Now, last season when the Stormers visited Dunedin, it didn't end well for them. They got a lot of points put on them. For the Highlanders, it seems weird. Coming off the bye, they've only played 1 game. The Stormers have already had 3. If there's one thing you might say for the Stormers is they should be a bit more kind of battle-hardened than the Highlanders, who might still be showing a bit of early season rust. So yeah, for the Highlanders, they've got that rust of not having played for a week. They looked pretty solid against the Blues though. That game for it was second round, but it was first game of both teams. Both teams looked pretty sharp. So if you're Robbie Fleck from the Stormers, hoping that the Highlanders are going to be kind of not precise, not showing that kind of accuracy, I wouldn't be betting on it, just because of how well they did the week before. They've been working in training on their technique, just in terms of defence. So they're really trying to avoid yellow cards, because we've seen a lot of yellow cards early on in Super Rugby this season. So they've actually incorporated that into their training at the Highlanders. So A, working on technique to make sure you're not getting a yellow card, and B, if you do get a yellow card, operating with 14 men. So yeah, they're really taking the whole yellow card thing pretty seriously. For the Stormers, man, the injury crisis just goes on. The list is long. So it looks like Schickerling could be out for the season. He's definitely out of the tour. Something with his bicep, I think possibly torn bicep. So, I mean, you've lost Etzebeth, you've lost Schickerling, so 2 of your top locks. You've got no Ntabeni, no Mbanambi, your 2 top hookers. I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Willems, as I record this, it's before the teams have been announced, so he might be back, if that would be good, if he can be. Maria looks likely, so that's some good news, but man, the injury list is just crippling for the Stormers. So yeah, we'll see if they can kind of get over it. Salma Morat's left South Africa to come and join the squad for this 1 game. But yeah, it's just really not ideal prep. I think the Highlanders are definitely expected to win this one, and probably pretty handedly. They'll be targeting a bonus point that the Crusaders got. But the Stormers showed in that game against the Crusaders that they're no pushovers. They have the will. They're not going to roll over. Even if you put a big lead on them, they're still going to keep fighting, which is good, because some teams kind of just put their hands on the hips and let the game go once it gets beyond them, but not the Stormers. So they definitely showed a bit of mental fortitude in that game against the Crusaders. For the Stormers, if they can pick up any points from this game, I think you count that as a win. And if they can get through 80 minutes without anybody getting injured, definitely a win. If any team could use a bye right now, it is the Stormers. But nope, they're in Dunedin. So, we'll see how that one goes. It should still be a pretty entertaining match. In the next game, so the Rebels play the Brumbies. The Rebels flying back from their trip to Japan, where they had a big win over the Sunwolves. The Rebels have looked dangerous. They're 2 wins, maximum points for both games. They're looking to impress, and they've been doing a good job of it so far. With selection, it looks like Marika Korobidi might be back for this game, which will give Dave Wessels a kind of selection headache as to who he goes with, because Maddox looked pretty good. He got a hat-trick of tries in the last game, but he looks like the likely guy who would have to move to the bench if Korobidi is back. I mean, it's a nice problem to have if you're the coach, that you've got so many good players to choose from that you've got to leave somebody out. But yeah, also every time you shuffle kind of a winning thing, you risk disrupting what was making it work. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. They'll definitely want to try and keep this run going and just establish themselves in the Aussie Conference as the top dog. They want to, to be looking down on the Waratahs and the Rebels and the Reds, Brumbies, and just saying, come on, it's your job to catch us, because they've got the talent that's come over from the Force and some of the guys who were already there. And Dave Wessel seems to be doing a pretty good job. For the Brumbies, so pretty poor loss to the Reds last week. So, a team without Higginbotham, without Tui. They had a yellow card during the game, and the Brumbies still couldn't beat them. So, yeah, pretty poor. They might be trying to look to target the travel factor. The Rebels coming back from Japan, maybe a bit tired legs. But again, same way I'm saying the Stormers shouldn't count on the Highlanders to have rust, the Brumbies should definitely not be counting on the Rebels being tired, because, like I say, they'll be fired up to beat a conference rival without a doubt. Their scrum will need to show a bit of steel, because the Reds for a while were bossing them around quite a lot, and you don't want to get it in both the other team's minds that you're a weak scrum, but also in the referees' minds, because if the refs start to think that you're a weak scrummaging team, every time that you go to play, the refs are just that little more likely to ping you if it's kind of a 50-50 call. There was one season where the Blues had just a terrible scrum and refs would just punish them, even when it looked like they weren't quite at fault. So they'll want to rectify those issues from last week. Yeah, and they need to improve themselves, just because they weren't convincing against the Sunwolves. Poor last week, so they need to step up. Hard for them because it's their third away game in a row. So like I said, the Rebels have been travelling, but the Brumbies have had to do a fair bit of back and forth as well. So yeah, tough start to the draw for them. Not the toughest, but also not ideal. Rebels are on their second home game already. So a bit of a point of difference there. I think Rebels will be expected to win this one, just given the form of the season so far and the fact they're at home. If the Brumbies get a bonus point, I still don't think they'll be happy. Just because the traditional positions of the Brumbies have been the Brumbies as the big brother, Rebels are kind of the little brother, so that they will not want that, even though it's a whole new season. If they can get a bonus point, I think it's not bad, but they'll be definitely trying to push for a win to not let the Rebels get too far ahead in the Aussie Conference. So yeah, should be two good games. Look forward to watching both of them. Should be a few guys we haven't seen coming in the Stormers, possibly, with the injuries they've had. And Rebels, if they can get Karabiti back, he's an excitement machine, so we will see how it goes. Let me know who you think is going to win. Like I said, I think the two home teams will be the favourites. So, yeah, we'll see what happens. Alright guys, catch you for the next one.